Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mindset Forge, a podcast where we discuss the best ideas of humanity, the most useful practices, and the most skillful means for developing a more well-adjusted and adaptive mindset. To do this, I will be discussing latest science, ancient philosophy that has stood the test of time, as well as the thoughts and actions of important historical paragons. The goal is to give you tools and practices and ideas for your self-improvement, with the goal of moving ahead the entire humanity. Our discussion will focus on the ideas and practices with the most cash value, so practices that are easy to take up but hold enormous potential. And since most of these practices have to do with changing your thinking and attitudes, they are completely free. Call me Laurent Lohel, I will be your host, and welcome aboard. Also, make sure to like Mindset Forge on Spotify and YouTube, as well as check out our Discord server, where you can find links to my book, which you can buy on Amazon to support my another side enterprise of being a fiction author. Without further ado, let's get to the episode. Mindset Forge, episode 20, the flow state, achieving peak performance. Act without doing, work without effort, think of the small as large and the few as many, confront the difficult while it is still easy, accomplish the great task by a series of small acts. The master never reaches for the great, thus she achieves greatness. When she runs into a difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. She doesn't cling to her own comfort, thus problems are no problem for her. Dao De Ching. Welcome, good listeners, to the 20th episode of Mindset Forge, a milestone in our journey. I'm your host, guiding you once again through the landscapes of the human mind and the vistas of potential that lie within us all. In the past episode, we've ventured through various states and phenomena of mind. We've delved into the mysteries of the spot hypnotic state, explored the effortless action of the Tao, and basked in the awakened mental state of Buddhism, also known as pristine awareness. Today, we are setting our sights on a state of being that many of you may have experienced, perhaps without even knowing it, a state called flow. You might recognize it as the feeling when you are so engrossed in a task that the world around you seems to fade away, leaving only you and your work in a perfect harmony. It's when challenges and skills align, when time seems to distort, and a feeling of fulfillment fills your being. It's the zone, the groove, the sweet spot. This concept, as we understand it today, was coined flow by a Hungarian psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who spent a large part of his career studying this state. He described it as a state of optimal experience, a place where we feel our best and perform our best. As we unravel the science and mystery of the flow state in this episode, my hope is that we can learn not just to recognize it, but to cultivate it, harness it, and tap into this powerful mental state more deliberately in our daily lives. So sit back or lean in and let's delve into the powerful current of flow. Welcome to the episode 20 of Mindset Forge. Are you ready to transform your work, your hobbies, and your life? The flow state is a mental condition where you are fully immersed in what you are doing, where time seems to disappear and your productivity skyrockets. But it's not just about getting more done, it's about making the process feel effortless, turning hard work into a joy, a dance, a delightful game. Imagine achieving your goals not with strain and struggle, but with a sense of ease and enjoyment. Picture yourself being so engrossed in a task that it doesn't feel like work at all. This is the power of the flow state. It's about making the journey as enjoyable and fulfilling as reaching the destination. And the benefits don't stop at productivity and satisfaction. Research has shown that being in a flow state has profound positive effects on our well-being. It increases our happiness, boosts our self-esteem, and improves our overall quality of life. It can even reduce stress and anxiety. Imagine being able to tap into a state of mind that not only helps you perform at your peak, but also makes you feel good while doing it. If you have ever felt that your work or your tasks are hard and taxing, if you have ever wished that you could get more done without feeling overwhelmed, or if you are just curious about how to make your life more enjoyable and fulfilling, then stay tuned. This episode is your guide to discovering and unlocking the potential of the flow state. So sit back, relax, and prepare to enter the flow. Flow is an altered state of consciousness that is thought to occur when we are fully engaged in a relatively challenging task or activity that is matched to our skills. It is a gratifying state of deep involvement and absorption that individuals report when facing a challenging activity, and they perceive adequate abilities to cope with it. Csikszentmihalyi described flow as a state of complete immersion in an activity during which you feel a heightened sense of focus and a sense of ecstasy or enjoyment. During the flow state, self-awareness and the passage of time can seem to disappear, leaving you fully engrossed in what you are doing. It is often associated with a sense of control. You know what needs to be done, and you have the confidence that you are capable of doing it. The flow state is characterized by the following elements: intense and focused concentration on the present moment, merging of action and awareness, a loss of reflexive self-consciousness, a sense of personal control or agency over the situation or activity, distortion of temporal experience, so time seems to either expand or shrink, experience of the activity as intrinsically rewarding. Csikszentmihalyi explains that flow occurs when there is a balance between the level of skill and the size of the challenge at hand. If the task is too easy, it can lead to boredom. If it's too hard, it can cause anxiety, but when your skills perfectly align with the challenge, you enter a state of flow. The benefits of achieving a flow state are significant. It has been linked to improved performance and productivity, increased creativity, accelerated learning, and heightened enjoyment and satisfaction. Research suggests that people who frequently experience flow states are happier and have a higher quality of life. Imagine this scenario. You are a writer working on a new novel. You've been stuck in a bit of a rut lately, struggling with the challenging section of the plot. But today you sit down at your desk, take a deep breath and start typing. Suddenly you find yourself deeply immersed in the narrative, the words flowing from your fingers onto the screen. Your surroundings fade away and all that exists is you and the story unfolding before you. You lose all sense of time. Several hours pass, but to you it feels like mere minutes. You look up to find that it's already dark outside, yet you don't feel tired or drained. Instead, you feel invigorated, satisfied. You have written several chapters and more importantly, you have broken through the plot challenge that had previously seemed so insurmountable. You have experienced a state of flow. This example illustrates how flow can occur when you are deeply engaged in an activity that you are skilled at and find challenging and enjoyable. The key to achieving flow in this scenario was that the writer had a clear goal to progress the narrative, received immediate feedback, seeing the story take shape on the screen, and had a good balance between the challenge of the task and their ability to meet it. Another example. Imagine you are a basketball player in the heat of a championship game. The crowd is loud, your heart is racing and the pressure is on. You have the ball, the clock is ticking and your team is down by 1 point. Suddenly everything around you fades away. The noise of the crowd, the glare of the lights, the faces of your opponents, they all blur into the background. All you see is the hoop and all you hear is the steady rhythm of your own breathing. You dribble, you move, you weave through the defenders as if they were standing still. You are not thinking about your next move, your body just knows what to do. You are acting instinctively, reacting in real time, and everything just flows. You jump, release the ball in a perfect arc towards the hoop and then swish! The crowd erupts in cheers, but you are still in your bubble of concentration, your state of flow. It's only when your teammates come rushing towards you, lifting you off your feet in celebration, that you snap back to reality. You've just won the game with a buzzer-beater shot. This example illustrates how flow can occur in sports when an athlete is fully engaged in the game with a clear objective, scoring points, immediate feedback, seeing the results of their actions, and the balance between the challenge and the task of their skills. Achieving a state of flow in this context can lead to peak performance and exceptional accomplishments. From a review paper called A Scoping Review of Flow Research, we find many more benefits of flow shown by research. Flow has been associated with positive mood and affect, feelings of emotional and psychological well-being, feeling more vigorous and less exhausted after work performance, work efficiency, sports performance, and so on. For example, flow shows in golfers in ways such as playing faster, staying calm, and showing confident body language. In the school world, flow is associated with exam performance, goal attainment, and academic performance. It has been also shown to have positive results on the performance in online games. So, if you struggle to work on your school project because a video game keeps taking all your time, you can either cultivate flow to make the school task fun and effortless, or go all in the esports world and use flow for that end. So, learning about flow sounds like a win-win. Flow has also been shown to have a positive correlation with life satisfaction in elite musicians and top athletes. On the neuroscience side, it has been suggested in an article called First Few Seconds of Flow, a comprehensive proposal of the neurobiology and neurodynamics of state onset, that there is a corticostriatal thalamic loop that governs the onset of flow. It has also been proposed that the basal ganglia, thalamus, amygdala, and dorsal anterior cingulate cortex are involved. Activity in this loop is modulated by a combination of endocannabinoids, dopaminergic and noradrenergic signaling. Moreover, this hypothesis suggests that loop activation is downstream from the fight response and the arrival of a series of P300 waves, or at the very least an increase in phasic dopamine in the ventral tegmental area. More broadly, a flow network is beginning to emerge where signals from the frontoparietal control network and reward structures are integrated. In fact, and as argued earlier, it appears that the salience network facilitates the transition into the flow network. So far, empirical work shows that the brain is organized into a modular network topology during flow. This topology is energetically efficient and exhibits high levels of flexibility, which is associated with the successful deployment of cognitive control during difficult tasks. However, the exact nature of brain network connectivity during flow is unresolved, and this connectivity may very well exhibit metastable characteristics. So, from the science side, it seems that the improved performance in a task flow affords one comes from more efficient working of the brain. All this is fine and dandy, but if flow was impossible to attain and just happened randomly, knowing of its benefits would be liable to just make one sad if they could never achieve this state by trying. However, it seems that even if flow cannot be turned on with the press of a button, there are still many things one can do to help oneself be immersed in the flow. Next we will detail these tools and practices because knowing them brings the most benefit. Looking at the purely biological side first, the article "Is there an optimal autonomic state for enhanced flow and executive task performance?" tells us that autonomic balance of about 90% sympathicotonic and 10% parasympathicotonic is associated with flow state and having reaction time at one's fastest. They found the correlation is in the shape of an inverted U. So having more sympathicotonia or parasympathictonia, roughly meaning more alertness or relaxedness, decreased the flow state. Another study found that experiences of flow were associated with an increased heart rate and an increased acceleration ratio, which correlates to sympathetic enhancement. So, peak performance can be entered when one is alert, but with some relaxedness, as anxiety has been shown to decrease the ability to enter flow, as does being too relaxed. In this study, they used heart rate variability to measure autonomic balance, and there are more and more tools for this in the open market, so a real biohacker could add this to their arsenal. A study called a preliminary study of the efficacy of using a wrist-worn multi-parameter sensor for the prediction of cognitive flow states in university-level students tells us that an optimal state of flow requires a balance between parasympathetic and sympathetic brain activity. In this sense, it is not surprising that multiple studies have identified a relationship between flow and sympathetic enhancement, as the prefrontal cortex is involved in the cognitive control of both movement and sympathetic enhancement due to the regions it coordinates. The effects of flow, such as blood circulation, meaning skin temperature, electrodermal activity, acceleration and heart rate, should be related to prefrontal cortex activity. Measuring these specific data markers can be useful in relating the stimuli and motor activity that are needed to experience flow to how we can understand and quantitatively pinpoint a flow state in an individual. The data indicated that an upward shift in skin temperature and changes in acceleration in their movements are the strongest indicators for flow, which is likely due to the relative constancy of the baselines of these indicators across individuals. And this can be used to recognize the flow state as it has happened, which can be helpful when learning to cultivate it for later. You don't need exact measurements and calculations to enter a flow, however. Let's look at other factors that influence the entry into this state. Even the researcher who coined the term and recognized the state has said flow should be more easily accessible if necessary conditions are facilitated. Recent research has shown that appropriate practices generates a certain control over the emergence of flow in athletes or musicians. A study called Achieving Flow, an exploratory investigation of elite college athletes and musicians, looked specifically how these two professional groups widely studied in flow research enter and exit flow. They identified 3 phases: preparation, flow state entry, and state exit. Preparation consists of 4 sub-themes. 1. Warm-up, 2. Focus, 3. Body feelings, and 4. Emotional state. Warm-up is the phase in which performers prepare themselves for the activity. The warm-up could be both physical and mental. The physical warm-up aims to activate the body to be able to engage in the activity. For athletes, it may consist of small games or tasks that are less demanding than the final activity or performance. Musicians tune their instruments during this phase and test the instruments doing exercises such as long tones and scales. Then they play a few notes alone or with their ensemble. 2. Focus, which can be either internal, so directed towards body, emotion and sensations, or external, so directed outside the performer, at the audience, for example. Internal focus can be more helpful as it helps with concentration, while external focus could have a negative impact, such as increased anxiety. 3. Body feeling. Body feeling can be feelings considered positive or negative, such as feeling refreshed or tired. The purpose of the warm-up is to ensure that the body feelings turn to positive ones. Mindfulness can certainly help with this. And 4. Emotional state is the final piece of the preparation phase. Before a performance, many experience negative emotions such as anxiety, and the purpose of this phase is to cultivate positive emotions using, for example, the many tools we have discussed before, like cognitive reappraisal, embodied tools, visualizations, and so on. Phase 2, flow state entry, also consists of 4 sub-themes, which are 1. Goal setting, 2. High level of involvement in the activity, 3. Control over performance, and 4. Positive emotions and sensations. Goal setting is listed as something crucial for the flow state, so it is beneficial to enter one's work or performance with a goal in mind, such as getting a certain amount of work done or performing up to some standard, or just learning from the experience, which, as we have discussed before, is a type of goal associated with many beneficial outcomes. 2. High level of involvement in the activity is something that happens when one focuses on what they are doing, and it is difficult enough to require focus, but still achievable with one's skill level, so the going isn't too arduous. Controlling one's attention can likely help with this. The focus shifts from internal or external to the task at hand, and one becomes immersed in it. 3. Control over performance means that one has some level of control over what they are doing, despite the fact there are always unpredictable things outside of one's influence, such as opposing players in a sport. 4. Positive emotions and sensations. The second phase is also associated with positive sensations as well as positive emotions. According to the participants, these positive emotions are correlated with the successful completion of their performance. In addition, they feel more energetic and confident. This is eventually followed by the exit from flow state, when one returns to reality, so to speak. From the scoping review, we find more factors influencing the attainment of flow. So-called autotelic personality is the ability to enter flow state with relative ease. Existing studies suggest that these components of autotelic personality are personal innovativeness, self-efficacy, control, focused attention, and the achievement motive. Most of our personalities have changed with time, as it is just a collection of different factors like everything else. For example, focused attention can be trained with mindfulness. Self-efficacy increases when one cultivates positive mood and stays active, and so on. So I'd imagine one can improve their self so the attainment of flow comes more easily. Studies suggest that extroversion and openness to experience are positively related to flow, while higher neuroticism and introversion are related to less flow experience. Again, mindfulness increases one's openness to experience, as taking a non-judgmental interest in everything is one of the defining characteristics of mindfulness. Fittingly, further research has found that cognitive flexibility and mindfulness predicted flow. Studies on flow involving creative activities highlighted that flow was not affected by cognitive load. Rather, flow experience could help banish or reduce unwanted cognitive processes, such as intrusive thoughts and rumination. Previous theorizing argues that several triggers are causally linked with individual or group flow, and these individual triggers include clear goals, immediate feedback, and the challenge-skill balance, where both the task challenge and an individual's skills are high. Novelty, complexity, unpredictability, and insight. Risk of the task, deep embodiment or the hyper-awareness of cross-sensory modalities, and major intrinsic motivators such as curiosity, autonomy, passion, purpose, and mastery. These are linked with increased dopamine signaling, which was previously suggested to be related to flow. In the last episode we discussed the sport hypnotic state, which was a special term for the flow state during sports. You can listen to that episode to learn more how to cultivate the flow state. Now that we have mentioned hypnosis, it is time to point out that the similarities between flow and some other mental states. From the article First Few Seconds of Flow, we get discussion about how the flow state is similar to meditative state and psychedelic state, which also share considerable overlap, as all are defined by increased focus with the loss of feeling of self, time dilation, and so on. If you have listened to the previous episodes, you might be wondering, isn't the concept of flow strikingly similar to what Eastern philosophies have been preaching for millennia? And you would be right. Both Taoism and Buddhism, for instance, talk about remarkably similar states of consciousness. Taoism, a philosophical tradition that originated in ancient China, refers to a state of being known as Wu Wei, or effortless doing. It is a form of intelligent action where one is completely attuned to the situation at hand, performing actions seamlessly without overthinking or forcing it. The person in this state doesn't feel the separation between themselves and the action they are performing. It's a harmonious interaction with the world where everything feels as if it's unfolding naturally and effortlessly. Sound familiar? That's because it is remarkably similar to what we know as the flow state. On the other hand, some branches of Buddhism refer to a state of pristine, non-dual awareness. The Buddhist scriptures often describe the experience of selflessness, where the sense of a separate self dissolves, and what remains is a pure, undivided awareness. This awareness perceives the external world and the internal thoughts and emotions without any sense of division or conflict. In this state, the doer and the deed merge into one, much like the basketball player shooting the winning hoop, or the writer losing herself in the world of her novel. In other words, flow is not an entirely new concept. It can be seen as a rediscovery or a reinterpretation of states of consciousness that have been known and cultivated in wisdom traditions around the world for centuries. These states are all about merging of action and awareness, about being completely absorbed in the task at hand, and about a kind of effortlessness in action. All of these characteristics are at the heart of what we call flow. So yes, it seems like Csikszentmihalyi's flow might just be a westernized modern approach to these age-old wisdoms, packaged in a way that appeals to the contemporary scientific community. But whatever the label, it's clear that this state of unified consciousness, this experience of flow, holds remarkable potential for enhancing our lives, our creativity, and our well-being. Venturing into the pristine awareness for a moment longer, this pristine awareness is considered the pinnacle of spiritual realization in Buddhism. In many ways, pristine awareness resembles the flow state, albeit with some crucial differences. Whereas flow is a state of complete absorption in an activity, pristine awareness is a state of total presence without the task. So, to me, it sounds like it could be described as flow without the task. So one is constantly in a flow-like state without having to look for the task to immerse themselves in, instead being completely immersed in the present moment and a sense of being aware and not caught in loops about thinking of past or present or any other discursive thoughts of the wandering mind. In pristine awareness, as in flow, the boundaries of self seem to dissolve. The subject-object dichotomy which characterizes our everyday experience disappears. There is no you doing something separate from the something you are doing. The doer and the deed merge into a state of unified consciousness. In both states, the present moment assumes a profound significance, because your mind is completely absorbed in the task at hand, in the flow, or in the sheer act of being in pristine awareness. It doesn't wander off to the past or future. You are fully here and now. But what about the experience of these states? Well, while we know that flow is typically associated with joy and fulfillment, descriptions of pristine awareness often hint at an even deeper sense of bliss and contentment. Those who have experienced it, like Buddhist masters, often exhibit a profound sense of peace and equanimity that seems to pervade all aspects of their life. One can only imagine what experiencing this state might be like and how transformative it could be. A state of unclouded awareness, of pure consciousness, unencumbered by thoughts, tasks, or even the sense of an individual self. It's an enticing idea, to say the least. So, if flow is about harnessing the potential of our mind to achieve optimal performance in our activities, then pristine awareness is about tapping into the deeper layers of consciousness beneath the flurry of thoughts and identities to realize our true nature. And who knows, maybe the pathway to one leads to the other. After all, they both seem to involve stepping outside of our everyday limited sense of self and into a state of being that is at once more focused, more expansive, and profoundly more rewarding. So maybe cultivating the flow state can be a stepping stone on our path towards something even more profound. And with that, we come to the close of another enlightening episode of Mindset Thoughts. Today we took a deep dive into the world of flow, a state of complete absorption and effortless action. We uncovered how this state, characterized by unity of action and awareness, a sense of control, and a distortion of time, can allow us to transcend the ordinary boundaries of self and perform at our best. We discussed the numerous benefits of achieving this state, ranging from increased productivity and creativity to enhanced well-being and personal growth. We delved into ways we can cultivate the conditions that allow flow to emerge by engaging in challenging tasks that match our skills, setting clear goals and minimizing distractions, while carefully managing our mental state and our emotions and staying mindful. But more than that, we've drawn parallels between flow and similar states of consciousness identified both in scientific literature and ancient wisdom traditions, like sport hypnotic state, Taoism's effortless doing, and Buddhism's pristine non-dual awareness. This connection has helped us see that the pursuit of such states is a timeless human endeavor, one that we share with our ancestors despite the differences in our culture and epochs. Our hope is that through understanding and harnessing the power of the flow state, you can turn your work and challenges into pleasurable non-efforts. A state where self-improvement and personal growth isn't a task, but a journey you are excited to embark on. Thank you as always for joining us on this journey. Stay curious, stay open, and most importantly, keep forging that mindset for a more fulfilling life. See you next time on Mindset Forge, and until then, stay in the flow. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Mindset Forge. I hope you found it informative and the lessons and practices spoken in it relevant to your situation. I also hope you found it as entertaining to listen as I found making it to be. If you found it beneficial, be sure to follow Mindset Forge on Spotify as well as on YouTube, where you can also give us a thumbs up. Also, make sure to check out our Discord server for further discussion, where you can contact me directly. Links in description and channel information. There you can also find the link to my book, which I have self-published on Amazon, called Death Tribe. If speculative dystopian near-future sci-fi sounds like a cup of tea, getting the book is a great way to support my work as an author. So have a nice day, and memento cerebrum formare.